Hey everybody, a great first week of the 100th year of the NFL, and I have to say, oh, by the way, I got a notification. Oh my God, I'm shocked. It's like, whoa, it popped up. Yay! Woo! Yay for notifications popping up. I love it. Um, let's get right to it. First of all, I was gonna start a lot earlier, but I had to stop and listen to the New England Patriots press conference because, of course, I wanted to hear what Bill Belichick was going to say about Antonio Brown. And guess what? I was duly rewarded with nothing, zero, zilch. Reporter asked him to comment about Antonio Brown posting something on social media, and basically, and the question was, "Do you have a comment?" And he said no, and then he went right into talking about the New England Patriots' 33-3 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was absolute, complete dismantlement. That if it were a heavyweight championship fight, it would have been stopped in the second round or second quarter. Instead, they allowed it to go on. Um, and it once again demonstrated that uh, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a long way to go and that the New England Patriots are far ahead. I mean, far ahead of everybody else. And you would say, what's the secret to the Patriots' success? I will tell you in one word: research. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Oakland Raiders, the NFL teams are simply mailing it in when it comes to the use of brains. Okay? There are a lot of people out there who are very lucky to get jobs who simply don't embrace analytical football. And I don't mean just the number part, okay? I simply mean, or the Buccaneers, okay? And this is something that's really irking me because we're at an era where now we can begin to say, hey, you know what? Who are the talented African Americans out there in the coaching ranks that should be considered for positions? And what's happening is that we're not getting a list of names. And so we're getting people that are dropped out. The media doesn't help. I got after Ann Killian about this about 3 years ago because she was talking about, and has this habit of talking about where women should be in sports and how sports has a shortfall of women in management positions and so on, but she turns a blind eye when it has to do with African Americans. Okay, and she does. So how else? What else do you call that but racism? Straight up. And she doesn't respond to it, which hey means there's a problem. Okay, and you have media person after media person after media person, and then what makes it worse is you don't have a lot of people who look like me who are starting their own platforms. You have a few, but then when we are out there, we don't work together as a group like we should. Unlike other folks, like the Bleacher Report was started by three white guys in San Francisco who teamed up with each other. Period. Okay, and it's very difficult to get us to team up. We'd rather. I'm just being blunt. Okay, I'm being blunt. Oh, by the way, Red Sox fired team president Don Dabrowski in just a few minutes ago. It's very difficult for us to team up. We get it, and when we do get it, we get great works like, for example, Morgan DeBaum's Blavity. Morgan raised almost $10 million. She has a staff of 70, and they write about news from a black perspective. But even then, they're not every place. Okay, so all right, so they're not every place. So we don't get a narrative that is fair and just and realistic with what's really happening. Let me give you an example. Antonio Brown is worth $50 million. And I don't mean his contract. No. Hey, everybody. I mean and I'll say, hey, Cowboy Wrestler, hey, Muhammad, hey, Chi, hey, Jay, hey, Jordan, hey, Donald, how you all doing? Yes, Keelan Doss is a Raider. Getting back to my point, I don't mean Antonio Brown's contract. No. Antonio Brown was last year possessive of the 7th highest number of jerseys sold in the NFL. All right. This year, coming to the Raiders, he was at number 8. The next highest Raider was Derek Carr at number 43. 1/3 of that money goes to the team. The 2/3 goes to the player, and the player takes part of that 2/3 and puts it into a pool for the other players as per NFLPA rules, National Football League Players Association. But the Raiders, had they not mucked this up, and I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says, there's a racist narrative out there about Antonio that I think is going to be destroyed when he gets to New England. Period. Okay. But end of story, because the Patriots wanted him, and the Patriots wanted him for a reason, even before he came to Oakland. So the trip to Oakland was a mistake. And again, you want an example of how the Patriots do things, just watch the press conference. Belichick doesn't mention Brown. The Raiders couldn't stop talking about Brown. They couldn't stop making him the center of attention. He was on Hard Knocks, there I go again. He was on Hard Knocks and everything else, okay? And then it blew up in the Raiders' face, and they didn't know what to do with it. So my point is that, and I made a number of different points, but my point is with respect to Brown is that he will do exceptionally well because the Patriots are aware of the racism that governs the NFL, and they use it to their benefit. They've done it several times. They've done it with Randy Moss. They're doing it with Josh Gordon. I mean, all the time, okay? All the time. So they have a different way of looking at the business, and it's the just way. And it's smart. And then we're going to make a lot of money off of Antonio Brown. Probably more than any other player, save for Tom Brady himself. Okay? So, coming back to the way things should be. If I turn to the Fritz Pollard Association, which is an organization that supposedly is prized with or wants to identify and place black coaches, I called the Fritz Pollard Associations a few years ago. They couldn't even provide me a list of the top black head coaching candidates, all the black assistants, nothing, okay? Nothing. I mean, zero zilch, okay? And then again, outside of Blavity or what I'm trying to build, most of us as folk, we want to post on a platform that some white guy started, like Facebook, rather than developing our own. I'm being hard totonight because things have to change in order for the world to get better. And the other reason I'm being hard tonight is I happened to run across a headline that really bothered me. And then I'll go into NFL scores and everything else, and I'll get off the social commentary, so to speak. But I'll tell you what bothered me, and then I'll read your comments. But look, or at least those that are worth reading. But which is most of them. Most of you guys have been pretty good, I'll tell you. I think out of 1,000 comments, I maybe only booted one. That's really great. So at any rate, so give yourselves a hand. At any rate, I'll tell you what headline bothered me. It was a headline that it was around the study, an article that was around the study that basically said that we are not wired to have a democratic nation. That we are, by our nature, what this person called our Stone Age brains, we are wired to be led in an authoritarian way. Now, personally, I take that as an insult. But when you start looking around, you say, maybe this person has a point. Because we're too busy reading on cell phones to connect with other people, right? We've raised a whole generation of people that don't understand what it means to get out and vote and actually get involved in politics and insist on the best from their elected officials. And if they don't get it, run for office themselves, or at least get involved in politics. I never ran for office because I didn't think I would get elected, but I definitely have been a major part of the political process. Hey, I run a media company, okay? So my point is that the best way to achieve power for anybody, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, is to start your own company. And I'm saying something to those people out there who are low income and white and feeling like maybe things are closing in around them. They're not. Those people who go out and march and have these white supremacist things are screwed up. I'm going to tell you something. If you've come this far in America and you don't know what it means to be white, you got a problem. As a Black person, I can tell you what that means. It means having confidence. It means not fearing to go out on your own and be creative, all right? It means not fearing to be intelligent, not fearing to think, not fearing to state or have your own ideas, okay? It means not fearing to take risks. Now, a lot of you might say, oh, there's some underpinnings there. But my point is, and I'll get to football, because this has a lot to do with football. But my point is, we're at a point where everybody seems like they're losing their way. Don't. Feel good about who you are. Feel good about your heritage, where you came from, and be interested in somebody else's as well. And don't fear to be great, and don't fear to take a risk, but don't fear to join up with people. Otherwise, you'll be led by somebody, and you'll wonder, like the people in Hong Kong, how do we get here and how do we get out? Okay? Now, onward. I have to say one thing. Welcome back, Keelan! Woohoo! Okay, they got it right. They got it right. The Raiders straight out got it right. And I'm gonna give Mark Davis the credit. And I'll tell you why. I was trying to get Larry Mack on the show. He might be listening right now, or he maybe just decided to fly the coop. But Raider Mack and I were having a cool conversation. I appreciate the phone call. And Raider Mack was talking about how he didn't think Mark Davis had, concern or care for getting involved. I said, no. This had Mark Davis written all over it, because I'm sure, Mark responds to the audience and he says, and this is the business aspect of Mark Davis, okay? And Mohammed just asked, who's running the show in Mater Management? It really is Mark Davis. And, it's Mark and then John and then Mike Mayock in that order. And I'm telling you, Mark said, you know what? Why are you giving up a guy who's a local guy, okay, was our leading receiver preseason, and the Jaguars are trying to keep him. They're paying him full price to keep him on the practice squad, and we can't even get him in here? How do you explain that? You can't. So guess what? They had no business cutting him to begin with. You don't cut your homegrown. Keelan Doss is the best wide receiver to come out of UC Davis, period. And you let him go? Well, whatever. He's back now. Rectified. Error rectified. Okay? Did it make up for Antonio Brown in its entirety? No. All right? That said, I was upset, but now I'm back on the bandwagon. Let's beat the donkeys. And I say that because life goes on, all that stuff. All right. Before I get too far down this, and because there's two other points I'm going to make later, but I want to come back to the real show, which is your comments. Donald Richardson started off with Keelan Doss is a Raider, which Jordan Yancey says yes. Mohammed says, do you see a change in Steelers coaching a rebuild? It's one game. And not only that, it's one game against the Patriots. And I'm telling you, the Patriots are going to run roughshod over everybody this year, and you just may very well see them running the table. You heard me say that. You might see the Patriots run the table. There are two teams that I think are capable of stopping them. One of them is being the Kansas City Chiefs. The other, I don't know who that is. Okay, but I see nothing standing in the way of the Patriots from running the table. Nothing. Right at this point, what's going to happen? I don't see it. I don't see it. They lost Gronk. They brought back Josh Gordon, and they're getting Antonio Brown. They have Demaryius Thomas. They have Sonny Michel at running back. Cowboy versus New Orleans Saints. Yeah, but if they get that far. But my point is, I don't see anything standing in the way of the Patriots. Now, maybe the Miami Dolphins will. Maybe Brian Flores will catch quick religion. Pull out some secret playbook he's got that catches everybody by surprise and clobbers New England. And hey, we're sending a different tune. But right now, the tune is Pats run the table. Okay. So there you go, Muhammad. Jay Will says Lamar Jackson is the truth. 5 freaking touchdown passes. Lamar Jackson is the biggest thumb in the eye to all these people. Hey, Pedro, not you, who wanted to talk about how, he's a running quarterback. When all you had to do was go to YouTube and pull up any video you wanted to show, you know what, too, and something else. In talking about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, I may just be talking about that other organization that would give the Pats problems. Because the Dolphins' issue wasn't so much the Dolphins' problems. They ran into a buzzsaw. They were not prepared for a Ravens team that had found the perfect formula for how to employ its star quarterback, Lamar Jackson. And mentally, and that's what I'm talking about, getting your mental shackles off and just saying, hey, you know what? We're going to design a game plan that takes advantage of our star quarterback's passing as well as running. 5 touchdown passes. Now, no one can say, and 300 plus yards. No one can say Lamar Jackson isn't a great passer. No one can say, well, he can run, but he took a gigantic eraser to that today. All gone. But he did it in college. He was throwing his lights out. He had 300-yard games at Louisville. But you see what I'm talking about when I talk about this racist narrative that comes out? And regardless of color or sex, you should be tired of that because it's an insult to your intelligence. If you're an intelligent person, you say, I know that's not true. Stop with the stuff. The media does that, and that's why so many journalists are getting fired. No one wants to hear that stuff anymore. People want to hear the truth. They want to have fun. All right? So, J. Will 501 is right. Lamar Jackson is the truth. Cowboy wrestlers, the Steelers and Browns are absolute trash. The Browns are overhyped for the same set of reasons, okay, that people were denouncing Lamar Jackson and his possible success. So I was sitting back, and I've said it on this program before. You know what? They're liking the Browns for the wrong reasons. And now we see that. And no one bothered to look over and say, hey, what about Tennessee and Marcus Mariota and the changes they've made? And it came up right in the face of everybody. Okay? Do I think that Tennessee's powerful enough to stop New England? No. Not at this point. Mohammed says 800,000 of those 17 million coming back to the Raiders is a great sign. Things are changing. Yeah. I'll go with that. Like I said, I'm off that bandwagon. I'm back. Okay, I'm back. I'm cool. Yeah, I had to be talked down for a bit. I was pissed, man. It's like, what do you do that for? But I'm cool now. I'm cool. Can't wait for tomorrow night or tonight, whichever case you're on. Muhammad says Raiders definitely have a chance to make the playoffs this year. I agree. I agree. Cowboy Rush says, by the way, good evening, everyone. Cowboy Rush, nice to have you here. Cheese says, yeah, the Cleveland Browns like the Raiders' cousins, but with no rings. Muhammad says, Dolphins players asked Trey, what's going on in the AFC? That's a good question. I apologize I didn't get a chance to look at it, but I am a click away, right? So we can go to Twitter, and we can type Brian Flores, right? And Brian F. Brian Flores fired? Let's see here. No, everyone, there's a number of people. If you type Brian Flores fired comes up on Twitter. It doesn't mean that he was fired. It means that there are people who think he should be fired. Okay. Take a look at this. I mean, well, no, I better not because this has a bad language in it. Right. So, okay. Brian Flores, let's take the fired out. See what the results are. And let's see here. Multiple, and this comes from the Pro Football Talk. Look at this. This is it. This is what you're talking about. Boom. Multiple Dolphins players called their agents to request trades after Miami's 59-10 loss per Pro Football Talk, okay? So let me find that, and rather than you having to strain your eyes to read it, how about I strain my eyes for you, all right? And so, yeah, Pedro, I saw that. Let's find out what the heck is going on here. Well, can't find out that way because there's no click. It just said that. All of them said, I'm going to head out. Other organizations, those players, like, hold on, I'm trying to find the quickly openable version of this deal. And I hope Brian doesn't have the same problem that Steve Wilkes had last year with the Cardinals, which caused him to be one and done, okay? And what happened was that Steve Wilkes got into arguments with players. He didn't listen to his players. And I'm going to say something that some folks are not going to like, but sometimes when we are young as black men and get positions of power, sometimes we have a chip on our shoulder and we say, you know what, it's my way or the highway, as opposed to listening actively, right, and learning. And then we get these defense mechanisms. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, Brian Flores has some of that. And if this happened, someone's got to sit down and talk with him and say, hey, you know what? Need to adjust more than a bit, okay? And so let's see what's ailing them. Basically, go to Pro Football Talk and find out what the heck is going on. A 59-10 loss has consequences. This is Pro Football Talk I'm reading, including multiple players from the losing team wanting to flee what they perceive to be a deliberately sinking ship. So, Early Mutiny in Miami is the title from Pro Football Talk, ran by Mike Florio, who I really like. You know, Mike, I don't always like the content Mike puts out, but I love Mike as a person. I think Mike Florio's cool. Always nice person. At any rate, right. Losing 59-10 at any level of football leaves a mark. In Miami, it's sparking a mutiny. Prairie League source with knowledge of the situation. Multiple Dolphins players contacted their agents after Sunday's season-opening blowout loss and directed them to attempt to engineer trades elsewhere. The players believe that the coaching staff, despite claiming that they intend to try to win, aren't serious about competing and winning, and by all appearances have bought into the notion that the Dolphins will take their lumps now in the hopes of laying the foundation via high draft picks for building a successful team later. Coach Brian Flores consistently has denied an intention to tank, but the first rule of the Tank Club is never to talk about Tank Club. And even if Flores insists that there's no tanking, that doesn't keep the players from, one, believing it's happening based on the trade that sent tackle Laramie Tunsil, oh God, and receiver Kenny Still to Houston 8 days ago, and two, wanting to be no part of it. Now, the reason why I said, oh God, because Laramie Tunsil's an awesome left tackle. They just let him walk. The Dolphins inform Pro Football Talk they have not heard from any agents or players regarding this matter, and that they have not received any requests for players to be traded. Okay. You know, when I read that, I read this. I read spin. Somebody who put that out there, all right, let's go back to the source. Per a league source with knowledge of the situation. First of all, when I heard that, they said multiple Dolphins players contacted their agents. Now, who would know that? I mean, let's think for a moment. Who would know that? Who would know that? Who would you consider a league source? The only person that would know that is maybe the agent from one of the players. Okay. Somebody like that, but not necessarily somebody in the Dolphins, let alone one of the players. Someone like that. If it were that close. And the question would be, why would they put that out there? Well, it's true. Okay. Do they expect something to happen as a result of that? Probably, but then let's say probably not. Let's say that they're expressing a concern over, you know what I think it was? I'm going to tell you what else I think it was. And this, unfortunately, this goes back to race. Stephen Ross deliberately built a front office ran by black folks. And there are people in the NFL who don't like that. And so here you have the Dolphins and Brian Flores sort of playing along by, guess what? 59-10, and then trading Laramie Tunsil, and then maybe being a little bit bullheaded. Because, again, the knock that I have on Brian Flores is that he is a little too authoritarian for a first-year head coach. And he has the same problem that Steve Wilks had last year. Steve Wilks was the Cardinals coach. He was out with after 1 year. And Calais Campbell, among others, complained that the coach didn't listen. Word to black coaches. Not all of them. Let me put it this way. Word to black coaches not named Herm Edwards or Kevin Sumlin. Okay? First-year guys. Potential first-year guys. Don't come in with a chip on your shoulder and think that you have to be more, or not named Anthony Lynn, thank you. Don't come in and think that you have to have a chip on your shoulder and be more warden than the warden, all right? Don't be Todd Bozeman. Todd had that problem when he was at Cal, when he was the coach. How do I know? I covered Cal. I was a columnist for Montclair, 1994. Yes, I was there in the room with Tony Gonzalez when we had our press conferences in the basement of Larry Blake's, which is now no longer a Telegraph. But I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole, but that's how far back Tony Gonzalez and I go. But Todd had that chip on his shoulder, and he didn't like to be questioned. He eventually got in a situation that looked like he was cheating on his wife, where he shouldn't have gotten into that. I rooted for Todd big time. But you know what? I can't own his mistakes. He got himself to a point where he couldn't coach for 8 years. And this is a person who, if he had played his cards right, he would have sailed on to the NBA. Why? Because the Cal team he coached beat Duke in the Sweet 16. Mike Silver, you know him from the NFL Network. I know him as my buddy from Cal days. We were all at Patty O'Shea's in San Francisco's in 96, right? Going nuts, okay? Just nuts. And because we beat Duke, that was Todd that did that. He had Jason Kidd and a whole crew of fantastic basketball players. But Todd didn't understand what it meant to survive in a society that by its nature says, we don't want you to be there, but you're there. So rather than act like you're, angry with the society and everything and critical of anybody who provides, advice, just go with it. And so that's the advice I have for Brian Flores and others. Just go with it. All right? Just go with it. We'll see what happens. I think, again, one game, it's too early to call. It's too early to call. And so they finished this with this. Again, this doesn't mean the head coach, Brian Flores, and his staff are not actually trying to win. Flores is a respected coach with a strong work ethic and high character. Yep. But the perception wasn't good before Sunday, and now it's getting worse after a 49-point loss to the Ravens. It's inevitable that eventually people inside the locker room are going to notice. They now have, and some of them want out. Wow. I mean, it's what's lacking for me is I need more meat on the bones. In other words, I can guess at what is happening in there, as I told you, but I want to know exactly what's happening. Again, we're not complicated as a species, so I really believe it has something to do with him walking in, being black with black players, okay, and a mixture of where they want to see what they can get away with. They've got a black front office. Maybe they're trying to tighten things up too much. These guys don't like it. And maybe people like Laramie Tunsil spoke out against them. And then suddenly Tunsil had to go. And there was the problem. And I would bet credits to Navy Beans, they would say on Star Trek, that's the issue. Okay? And if it's the case, they got a lot of growing to do fast. You have people like Reggie McKenzie and Jim Caldwell. It shouldn't happen. But on the other hand, Reggie McKenzie did tell me and said this, I'll never forget it. Hey, look, just because somebody is our color doesn't mean you have to like them. But you know what? Maybe it's a good idea that you try. Reggie's in there too. They're all of them. As Jabba the Hutt would say, oh, all of you, all must pay for this outrage. Okay? They all have to pay for it. It's not just Flores, but it's all the front office. Come on, folks, get your act together. Or not. I mean, so okay. So moving along. It was Muhammad's comment that got me going. Thank you, Muhammad. Chi says, what's funny is if the Browns are very similar in dysfunction like the Raiders. I think the Browns just ran into a team that was better, had a better game plan, that has a hard-nosed approach to playing football. They do their research, and they come in with a particular approach that's effective for the team that they're opposing. Okay? And Joseph Binsman says, I pray the Raiders have learned their lesson here. I believe so. Joseph Binsman says, yep, Adam Schefter posted on Facebook today that the Browns wanted AB as early as March, but Pittsburgh didn't want to give him give him to a rival. Funny how things work out. Ain't it the truth? Riot Abbott says, I'm watching the Prologue Lounge, New York Giants. I want to visit. Ryan? What? Anyway, John O'Connor says, Patriots, I think, tried to get Brown from the Steelers. Yeah, that's right. She says, Josh Gordon and Philip Dorsett destroyed Pittsburgh's secondary. Didn't they, though? Excuse me. Raider Nation win over Denver Mules. Fingers crossed. Okay. If you go there to the Coliseum tomorrow, let me know if they have those. Let me know if they have those big burritos that are turned inside out at the East Side Club. Those things are awesome. Awesome. Cowboy Rush says, I'm sorry, but after the Antonio Brown fiasco, Jon Gruden and Mike Mayock need to be fired. It's going to be a long year in Oakland. I'm willing to give them a chance. Like I said, I'm over being pissed off. I'm over wanting Mayock to be fired over this. So I'm saying, okay, let's move forward. We all learned something. That's through life. We all learned something. Fine. Let's move forward. She says, I agree with you, Zenny62. Cowboy Russia says, clap, clap, clap. She says, Raiders still have a lot of talent. We need a good draft from Jacobs, Farrell, and Renfro. We need a great game plan from Gruden, Gunther, and Olsen. All right? Remember, it's always about plays. I don't care. Mayock was wrong when he said this in 2008. All right? Plays matter. You're not sending people out there to call their own plays and be free agents, excuse me. The coaches set the table for the players to be great or to suck, all right? That's the truth. So when Key was yelling at Jon Gruden in those famous scenes, he wasn't yelling it just to be, mean. He was yelling because he wasn't getting into the game. He believed he could contribute. So you design a way to quiet down your most active people and get them in the game, get them to contribute. Muhammad says, well, if you read up on American history, not surprised by that statement doesn't mean we agree. I agree we're all that way. I got you. And so, so let me see if I can go faster through your comments here because you got a lot of them, which is great. And I went too far the other way. And coming back to John Richardson says, I look at how Robert Kraft has took time to build a rapport with his African-American players outside of the game, and that has him looking like the cool owner to work with to all players around the NFL. Yeah, I mean, he gets, and look, that's not an act, okay? I mean, I know Bob Kraft, okay? He's not like my best friend or anything, but I know him from the owners' meetings. And he's a regular guy. He doesn't put on airs, very comfortable in his skin, if you will. And he's also very cognizant of the direction of American pop culture and how it impacts the business of the NFL. Okay? So he's not just hanging with anybody. He's hanging with people that he is determined have a tremendous impact and value on what it is he's trying to do with his New England Patriots in this instance. So yeah, and is that smart? And they happen to be us, black athletes, entertainers, right? Okay, who've been in many cases unjustly treated. So it's safe to say that Bob Kraft is all in, So Muhammad says, who's running the show in Raider management? I answered that before, Mark Davis. Chi says, don't sleep on Keelan Doss. Derek Carr needs to use him in the red zone. He is a 6'5" pass-catching machine. Folks, please call out the coaches, not the players. Put the coaches on the hot seat. Say Greg Olsen needs to call the plays to do it. Derek Carr is not writing the game plan. Olsen is. Derek Carr personally told me in an interview you can watch right here on Zenny62 on YouTube, I don't know, I just do what they tell me. What does that tell you? Learn the coaching staff, point the fingers at the coaching staff. Period. End of story, end of request for now. For at least these few seconds. Now, John Acosta says, you think Doss plays tomorrow versus the Broncos? No, I don't. Cowboy Russia says, Rooney doesn't fire coaches. Cowboy Russia says, New Orleans Saints. Now, when I say no, I don't, it doesn't mean I don't want him to. What I'm talking about is procedure, and I'm not sure. I think it's too soon. Now, what stops me from being absolutely certain of that is that he was already on the team when he was cut and went to someplace else, okay? I have to check on that. So I don't want to give you an absolute answer. I will say this, I'm not sure. I'll find out. The best way to find out is to see if the NFL, let me see what the NFL has listed him as, all right? Hold on a second. Because if he's activated for the game and the Raiders posted the information like they were supposed to, then I'll find out when I sign into my account, my NFL media account. So hold on a second, because that's what I'm doing right now. NFL transactions, no, nothing yet. The last listed set of NFL transactions was 9/7/19. So there's nothing more recent, okay? So no. Let's check Raiders.com to see if Doss was placed into the depth chart, and that's what I'm doing right now. The Raiders still have their stuff about Brown. Team and depth chart. Okay, page is opening. When the page opens, Connor Cook, barf. Let's see here. Wide receiver. Not listed. Not listed. There is a space behind Dwayne Harris, but it's not listed that his name isn't here yet. Okay. Right now, Terrell Williams and J.J. Nelson, the no-names, are the no-names. The no-names. Hunter Renfrow, Ryan Grant. They're going to become names real quick. Boy, this is a young group, okay? Signing for you can sign someone to the 53-person roster, but as to when they're eligible to play is another question. I don't see him on the depth chart here. Now, tomorrow morning, let me see something here. Let me keep looking. I'm not going to give up. Trying to find out the skinny here. Let's see here. And, by the way, yeah, this has Mark Davis written all over it. Raiders offer big raise to undrafted Keelan Doss to help fill Antonio Brown void. That's Davis all the way. Okay. So he was added to the active roster. And he confirmed to CBS Bay Area that he re-signed. And he said he was happy to be back in the Bay. He's headed back home. He'll be on the active roster in 2 days' time. So that means not tomorrow night. So there's your answer, okay? No, he's not. So there we go. So by Tuesday, he'll be good to go, okay? So the answer is, so by Tuesday, he'll be good to go, all right? So, Cowboy says, Rooney's don't fire coaches. Cowboy says, New Orleans Saints. She says the Chiefs and the Eagles can handle the Patriots even with Antonio Brown. Pedro Gallardo, I agree with you. Pedro Gallardo says, hey, guys. I say, hey. Ryan Abbott says the Patriots better not win it. She says, Brian Flores, Jay-Z fiasco backfired on him. Yeah. Jay Will says the Ravens historically have caused the Patriots problems. She says the Dolphins quit on Brian Flores. She says, fun fact, which is telling. She says, fun fact, the Baltimore Ravens are the original Cleveland Browns. Sad. Cleveland would have had 2 championships if they had stayed. True. Cowboy Wrestler says, okay, I'm willing to cut Steelers some slack, but the Browns, oh my goodness. Joseph Benjamin says, 2 things about Tennessee. Happy they didn't go away from giving Derrick Henry carries. He's a beast. The Alabama running back is just that. And the defense is mostly intact and has another year to grow together. Very good defense, coached by a very good defensive player once, Mike Vrabel. Cowboy Wrestler says, I'm not emotionally invested in the Raiders like I was before March of 2017. And then he adds, also my man Dak Prescott with 4 touchdowns and 405 yards passing. So we got to talk more about Dak. Dak, pay the man Prescott. Dak, pay the man Prescott. Okay? Cowboy Wrestler says, I'm checking the wires now. Pedro says, Dolphin players are asking to be traded away. Ryan says, Brian Flores is brought in to be a stopgap. Tua? I hope not. Well, no, Tua, yeah, would be great. But don't talk to me about this Clemson guy. I don't want to hear it. I just don't. I mean, you can say it, but I'm going la 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 la, like Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop, I think it was la 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 la. I'm not here listening la 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 la. Tanking for Tua. Muhammad says yes, sir. Cowboy wrestler. Ryan Abbott says through the draft is the best idea. Cowboy wrestler says Rosen. Why not? Cheese says Brian Flores tried to bully Kenny Stills over the Jay-Z Kaepernick situation and it backfired horribly. And you don't do that. And that is, yeah, I need to read more about that. You're saying he did that. Flores, Jay-Z. Let's see here. And so, all right. Coach Flores of the Miami Dolphins has got his players' attention with Jay-Z on the speakers all over the locker room, rolling throughout. Don't you love it? Leave it. Let's see here. That was latest is I'm not seeing that anywhere. Okay. Oh, you know what? It might help if I spelled his name differently, wouldn't it? Maybe Brian Flores can play more Jay-Z songs at practice this week to see if Dolphins can handle distractions. Oh, wow. Remember how Flores tortured Kenny Stills with Jay-Z songs? He deserves this. F Flores. Brian Flores should have stuck to football instead of trying to intimidate players with Jay-Z music for kneeling during national anthem. Cue JT. What comes around. Sorry not to see him go ASAP. At Miami Dolphins, I hope Brian Flores plays more Jay-Z this week to see if they can handle distractions. The owner is a problem, and I knew this day was coming. Maybe the owner was signed Trump to play. There is that, too. Retweet Shannon Sharp. Maybe Brian Flores can play more Jay-Z songs in practice. Oh, my God. This is hilarious. This is hilarious. Flores went from playing Jay-Z in practice to getting ethered. You can look at this. This is hilarious. Look at that. Flores went from playing Jay-Z in practice to getting ethered in the season opener. Nice. Brian Flores figuring out how many Jay-Z songs he should play at the next Dolphins practice to motivate team. You can't. You can't make this stuff up. Oh my gosh. All I know is this, okay? I'm one of the people who actually picked the Miami Dolphins to unseat the New England Patriots. I mean, I'm not one. I did, and I did so holding truly out faith for Brian Flores, which he has shattered, just shattered. Now, I'm not going to jump off the bandwagon just yet. I'm going to give it 5 games, to which you'll be what 5. They'll be 0. If they're 0-5, you can come at me and say, "Hey, bro, what's wrong with you?" Wait. It's too early yet. Okay. It's too early yet. Just hold on a second. Welcome to Zinni62, by the way. Let me get back to your comments. We've got Cowboy says Anthony Lynn. Yes. John Collins says, yeah, how about that win? They gutted out a victory, but you got to give it to the Colts. Okay? You got to give it to the Colts for coming back. And then Kyler Murray. 18 points in the fourth quarter, 308 yards passing. I've said it earlier. I'll say it again. The Cardinals came back to tie and could have won in the last 5 seconds were it not for a dropped interception. Wow. Or near interception. Wow. Okay. Joseph Amadeus says how having Doss back is reassuring. I agree. John Costa says, I wonder who the Jaguars might go after at quarterback now that Foles is out indefinitely. Colin Kaepernick, bring him. Come on, folks, get off the pine. Let's get this out of the way. Jordan Yancey says, why do people keep saying dysfunction? Because it's there. Cowboy Wrestler says, from what I've heard, Seahawks were considering Antonio Bryant. Yeah. And Muhammad says, if Jags pick up Colin, it'll be epic. Minority owner, Con is that kind of guy to do it. Let's hope so. Rimbins of Flores says, the NFL is turning into the NBA. A handful of good teams, then the rest of the league is mediocre or worse. Cowboy Wrestler says, according to Chiefs fans, CBS is public enemy number one. She says, Derek Carr better not mess this up. You have a lot of good wide receivers in your wide receiver core. Use Keelan Doss to Teelan Williams. Again, please, tell Greg Olsen that he's the OC. It's not Derek Carr that calls the plays or designs the playbook or the game plan. It's Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen is the offensive coordinator, and Jon Gruden is the head coach. Refer to them, please. I mean, where do you guys get this idea that you skip over the coaches and tell the players what to do, and the players aren't the ones that... Why do you do that? Why? It's the coaches, folks. Hello, McFly. It's the coaches. My Lord. I don't believe this stuff. Ryan Abbott says, unjustly, I disagree. Agreed, Ryan. Jordan Yancey said, I think I heard on NFL Network he was going to play, talking about Keelan Doss. Ryan Abbott says, Connor Cook was good. No, Connor Cook was not better than the best second guy they had on the roster, and that was E.J. Manuel. He had the quickest release. Wow, excuse me. Ryan Abbott says, what's the rent versus the income? For what? Jordan 27 Sports, welcome. Pedro says, yeah, I like our wide receiver group. Joseph says, great thing about wide receiver core is there's energy and enthusiasm. Ryan Abbott says, same with the Oilers. Huh? Edmonton Oilers? All right. Pedro Guerrero says, should we get a wide receiver in the next draft? No. The next draft, the Raiders need to concentrate really on, I think linebackers, because for me, Devin White should have been a Raider. Okay. But the Raiders could have cleaned up in linebacker the last 2 years and didn't. I'm not in favor of what the Raiders have done in total. Having said that, I think Vontaze Burfict was a great addition to the organization. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're going to spend big money on a team, spend it on defense and then grow your offense with the rookies. But having said that, if you have in the first round an impact linebacker, don't pass him up. Get him. I believe that going all the way back to Hugh Green at Pitt. Boy, if you have a chance, just type Hugh Green, Pitt in YouTube, Pitt football, and watch his tape from college. That dude was fast. And this was during the time that Lawrence Taylor changed the way people thought about defense. Or I should say more appropriately, how Bill Parcells employed Lawrence Taylor and how that changed how people thought about defense. Okay? Whew. Jay Will says, is Tua really that good? Jalen Hurts and the guy from Clemson look better to me. I think Jalen Hurts is every bit as good as Tua. They're very closely matched to me. The guy from Clemson, I'm not sold on. And that's because I don't believe the hype train is matching his performance this year in its entirety. I would put it at Tua and Jalen kind of equal, all right? And then it goes down from there. But you know what? Also, don't sleep on the Georgia quarterback. Don't sleep on oh, come on, Zinni. That's bad. The Georgia quarterback. Okay, now I got to go and do Georgia quarterback. But don't sleep on that's Georgia and QB. Don't sleep on Jake Fromm. Yes, don't sleep on Jake Fromm. I think Jake Fromm is going to be a very good NFL quarterback. All right, kind of like Matt Stafford level. Ryan Abbott says he wants to break the news. Okay, Cowboy Ursa says what? Oh my goodness, that was in reaction to what I was saying. She says that was funny about the Jay-Z Brian Flores memes. It was. She says I agree with Colin Kaepernick to Jaguars, but if Colin's throwing interceptions, then he'd be out of there quick. That's the game plan, though. If the game plan causes him to throw interceptions, there's a problem. Which is going to lead me to talk about Jameis Winston, because Byron Leftwich must be replaced. He is not want for that position of offensive coordinator because he and Arians have not installed a precision passing game. And I know I picked them to do extremely well, but I'm making a mid-game game plan adjustment because of what I saw today and what I witnessed today. All right, and during preseason, I wrote about it in preseason. There are a number of plays in their arsenal that have no business being there, that were not properly timed out in terms of design because they didn't pay attention to timing. Okay, and when you're going to have option routes, you better get your timing down in practice. And don't have an option route for an out pattern like that, because the quarterback is sitting out there. Just if you're going to have an out pattern, just throw it out. The only option route you have for that pattern is to go up. If you're going to throw an in pattern or something inside, make it a hook so that he comes back. The interception that Jameis threw that was caught by Richard Sherman, I could just look at this. The receiver turned in rather than out. Jameis was expecting an out pattern. And you know who else was expecting an out pattern? Richard Sherman. He was just sitting there. Clumps, touchdown. So now Jameis gets blamed for when the receiver ran the wrong way. It was a miscommunication. And they've been working with option routes the entire preseason because that's part of Arian's system, okay? But it's not the first time that Winston and his receivers have had a crossing of communication because one person ran the wrong way and the other ran this way. In general, when you're designing an option route, the best way to install it is you sort of set up the receiver that's running the option. Let me be more specific. Bear with me, okay? I was going to draw it out, but I don't have a pin here, so I'll just use my hand. It's like this. Okay, look. Here's the quarterback here's the quarterback in a shotgun. Here's the halfback. I want to get the ball to the halfback. So I'm putting the halfback up close to the line of scrimmage and near a wing, okay? I've got the slot back here. I've got the wide receiver here. I've got tight end here. I've got the fullback here. We have two backs, right? So it's a variation of a three wide receiver, three wides, okay? A variation. Now, I go up here. Here's my desired primary. So I'm taking the slot back here, and I'm putting him in motion, and I'm having him run a straight pattern like this. Why? Because if there's a linebacker that happens to blitz this way, I want to catch him real quick here. I've got the back here. The back is going out for the back for pass, okay? So I'm using the slot back to clear out for the back. The back goes out here, and therefore we give him the option. He can either go up, right, or out. He goes out if the flat is obviously open. If there's somebody hanging out there, you don't go out. If there's a zone and this is occupied by a quarterback, you go up here and hook. The split in here is going straight up, right? You see how everything's cleared out for the back, right? So you see where I have the option route placed? Okay. And note, the nature of the option route is based on where people are. So I'm not getting my quarterback in trouble because by having him throw where somebody is. By contrast, Byron Leftwich has that problem. Where the option route that he is designed, or Arians is designed, excuse me, has the potential for causing a ball to be thrown to a defender rather than the guy that's supposed to be there. If I'm throwing to the back and I'm saying, hey, look, I'm practicing this. I'm saying, read the back. The back goes straight up here. You're not going to be throwing all the way out here because there's somebody there, right? There's someone there. It's a different set of keys. If the quarterback is kicking or the linebacker is going out here in the flat, don't throw over there. Don't expect the running back to go over there. If he goes over there, don't throw it. Eat the ball. Take the sack, which is something Jameis has to learn to do. Take the sack. Don't give me an intentional grounding thing, right? Loss of down, okay? So you have to have a better system. It's illogical to say they don't have a system. They do. It's just not logical. Every play by its nature is a system. Every play by its nature. The fact that I'm drawing something up that tells you where to go, that's a system. The question is, does the system make sense? And obvious by the performance today in the passing game, it doesn't. It's one thing to draw these plays up, right? And it's another to actually run them, unless you have a mind where you can actually do thought experiments, like I did, okay? And be willing to say, hey, that doesn't work. I'll erase this and change that. You'd be surprised how many people don't do that. You have to be able to think of plays in the air. Forget a whiteboard or chalkboard or whatever board or squeegee or whatever. Just you have to be able to talk about them in the air. And then somebody you're talking with has to be able to have that conversation. So, hey, Byron, I think, is a great quarterback coach. I think that's his better place, okay? I think he's better at the guy that I want doing the research that can follow my lead there. But I think offensive coordinator is a bit, I think he needs to have more time as a quarterback coach than what he's doing right now. Otherwise, and Bruce, to me, my read is that Bruce is sort of mailing it in. He came out of retirement, but he's given it to his assistants, and he wants to develop his assistants. I think it's quite admirable that he wants to develop Byron, but he's doing it at a time when he's playing with Jameis Winston's money, because this is the last year of his contract. There are people who want to see him out of there. There's a lot riding on this. So for Bruce to sort of come in, he would take offense to what I'm saying. I don't mean to be offensive, but I'm just calling it like I'm seeing it. This is something that happened in preseason, folks. You could see this unfolding. I wrote about it on OaklandNewsNow.com. I was like, because he had been sacked 5 times, but it was obvious they were experimenting with a deep passing game, right? The Buccaneers. But the experiment was based on plays and problems that should have been worked out. Like by the 3rd game, hey, you know what? Are you using zone blocking? Great. Using zone blocking, your guard shouldn't be taken off after the D tackle that's swinging around the end, okay? So, defensive tackle. All right, let me move forward with your comments. Cowboy says Tennessee Oilers, maybe. Black Lion Supreme says, again, our season is over before it started. It's all because of the front office. Angry Raider says, do you think we will win Monday night? Yes. Riot Abbott says, Cowboy Wrestler, the Houston Oilers. Cowboy Wrestler says, Riot Abbott, okay. Angry Wrestler predicts 24-17 Raiders. I don't know if that'll have a score. But I tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for us to adjust our game plan better. Daniel Gutierrez says, hey, it's Daniel from California. Is there any news in the Oakland A's stadium? The bill that will provide a tax increment financing zone at Jack London Square is moving forward. I believe it's supposed to be on the governor's desk next week. I'll give you an update on that. That's very important. Sorry to bother you about the A's. I'm also a Raiders fan. Hey, bother me about anything, man. Not a problem. Cowboy Wrestler says, Z, I heard there were a lot of BS calls in that San Francisco Tampa Bay game. There were, but there was also a lot of bad game planning if you consider the talent the Buccaneers have on offense. Mike Aaron says, Mike Evans admitted fault. Cowboy Wrestler says, what about the Browns? Yeah, the Buccaneers, all right? The Buccaneers have on paper what it takes to be a team that can run the table if they had it, if they had the right schematic approach. And I contend that if Jon Gruden had coached the Bucs, we wouldn't be talking about Winston the way we're talking about him. We would be talking about Winston as a great passer, which he really is, posting a 300, 400-yard game. I think, and I know John himself was salivating at the opportunity to coach Jameis Winston, but it didn't happen. Okay, it didn't happen. Cowboy Wrestler says, what about the Browns getting 18 flags called on the day? Talk about lack of discipline. Rick Gray says, could Mullins or Beathard be a chip for the Niners to trade for a weak point on the Niners? Who would make the best match? That's a great question, Rick. I would think that basically Mullins, possibly. I like Mullins, and but for me, the jury is still out there, and I have to give that some more thought as I trudge through this. And let me get back to you on that. But Ryan Abbott says you should do a video of what? So Ryan Abbott says Matt Schaub in the Georgia Dome. Okay, I'm not. Ryan, you have this idea that's kind of weird. Okay, I'll just say that. Basically, my place is in Oakland. This is my place too, but upstairs, this is an office. This is not a bedroom. This is a very big place. And so, no, I'm not going to do a video of the whole thing because I don't want people trying to figure out where this is. Actually, we're way out in the boonies, okay? And there's some crazies around. I don't mean to be offensive. I'm just being honest. Maybe it's a good idea that you guys think I do live up here. Now that I think about it. Winston will be fine, says Mike. I agree. I agree. Cowboy Wrestler says, Black Lion Supreme, never too late to get those paper bags out. Ryan Abbott says, I want to... Ryan, if you don't stop... You write some of the most nonsensical comments, man. I don't understand where you're coming from. I think I'm just going to skip over from now on. Cowboy Wrestler says, the Bucs are another team that has a terrible front office. I think they just want to win. They are, I can't say, they're not terrible at all. And I know many of the people in the Glazer family, and I've known them for years. And they've done a lot for the community. And they're very nice people. I don't think, they're really well-meaning people. And they've structured some great teams in NFL history. Remember, they had Tony Dungy as coach, so they've really tried to help advance society through the ownership of the Buccaneers, and I give them a lot of credit for that. a ton. I love I love the organization. I love the Glazer family. So I can't I can't agree with you there. I think that they make some mistakes regarding how to decide who to hire, and Brian Glazer hasn't consulted me yet, and I have to give him a call. But I like the Glazer family a lot. So Cowboy Angry Raider says, "Do you give us 8-8 or 9-7? 9-7." Cowboy Rush says, "Z, did you hear about the fiasco CBS caused with the Jax KC game?" No, I didn't. Wright Abbott says, "Except for Winston." She says, "I agree. I think Greg Olson will stop doing screen passes and call more offensive plays that will get the running backs like Richard and Washington in the passing game." I agree. Ryan Abbott, okay. Dustin Scott says, "The few remaining Falcons fans on the phone calling the Arthur Blank ticket office to swap to Atlanta United." Esteban Rivoli says, "How do you feel about Nick Foles out for the season?" Awful. Terrible. Bring in Colin Kaepernick. Nick Foles is the poster child of bad luck in this instance. There's no way, other way you can say it than that. But the question is, who will replace him? And at this point, you have to say, okay, we all would love to see Colin Kaepernick walk in, but is there anybody else that, I mean, realistically, that you should consider plugging in to make a difference for you that's available? And I would have to say, well, the person I want is not playing anymore, so I'm not even going to mention that name at all. And I would get Mike Glennon. I would see if I can make enough maneuvering. I would see if it's possible to get the Raiders to part with Mike Glennon, because he's a proven commodity. I would see under what trade circumstances I could get him. Excuse me. So Mike Allen says, "Do you think Dan Quinn will be fired?" If the Falcons go 2 wins and 3 losses, or 1 win and 4 losses, yes. Yeah, I do. Because Mr. Blank has spent too much money, and this is the year where Dan Quinn basically put it on his shoulders and said, "Hey, look, I'm going to take charge of the defense. I'm going to get Dirk Carter to build a better offense." And it's quite obvious that in the first game, neither worked. I'll tell you what. Given what Mr. Blank wants, the best thing to happen in that game for Dan Quinn was for the Falcons to score. Had they posted a shutout, I think it's quite within the realm of possibility that Arthur Blank would have done something that normally would have been unthinkable, fired him the next week, okay? As if to say, I'm going to stop this, okay? And so at any rate, Esteban says, "Why do you think the Falcons are a declining team from being a good one a few years ago?" Esteban, that's the question of the night, and I will give you the answer, okay? And it's for this reason. So let me see. One thing I cannot stand are people who say that I skip their questions and then their questions are not there. So guess what? The person who put that is gone. That way they don't have to worry about playing games with me, I don't like that. Someone says, "Well, you skipped my question." And I didn't skip their question. It's like, you know what? Get out of here. It's ridiculous. I have no time for that. You know why? Because Esteban asked the question of the night, which is, why do you think the Falcons our declining team from being a good one a few years ago. Esteban, it has to do, I'll tell you precisely what the problem is with the Falcons, okay? It has to do with structure, formation structure, not organizational structure. They have a great front office. Thomas Dimitrov is one of the best general managers in football. Rich McKay is, for me, the best team president in all of football, all right? It's not it. The problem is that on defense, Coach Quinn does not teach a scheme that calls for each person to be accountable for a single gap in one direction. So, for example, if I play a four-man front, I have a hat on every head. That is, D tackle over guard, end over tackle, outside linebacker down and over, right, or up, but at least obvious that is responsible for seven hole outside, okay? Or we move over and give them the 8 and the defensive end comes over. My point is this. A well-structured, well-coordinated gap defense stops a run. You are not going to effectively and consistently stop a run when you have a defense that allows your linemen to freelance. So we have Grady Jarrett, a fantastic defensive tackle, no question about it. But you're allowing him to either go left or right in pursuing a run play rather than going in one direction, one gap, and maybe he doesn't get a chance to down the running back for this huge loss. But you know what? He helps maintain a chain, a picket fence, a zone defense against the run that stops the running back. The Falcons didn't do that. They have so much freelancing that you allowed a lineman to go away from the gap that lineman should be in to maintain gap control. And so that lineman goes this way, the back goes that way, and picks up 11, 12, 20 yards. And this happens consistently. The Vikings, by contrast, played excellent run defense. The Falcons try a reverse or an end around. The linebacker and the safety are there in the perfect holes outside, and they're just waiting to stop the receiver for no gain. It was one of the most beautiful defensive efforts I've ever seen, and yet so simple. I was today, okay? On offense, they brought in Dirk Cutter. I know Dirk Cutter personally. I like Dirk Cutter, but the one issue I have with Dirk is the same I have with Byron Leftwich and Coach Arians, and it's this timing issue, structurally. For example, having your quarterback drop back, the quarterback's set, but you don't have where the receiver should be isn't set. So the quarterback has to wait for the receiver. And what happens in that split second? The line collapses. Every play that you draw up should be designed that by the time the quarterback reaches a point, the ball should be gone. In other words, 1, 2, 3, stop, gone. That means your pre-snap reads have to be set. Steve Mariucci was very good with talking with me about this, as was Coach David Shaw. Both, I might add, Bill Walsh / West Coast offense employers of that offense, right? And the whole point was, look, bottom line, you should know where you think the ball is going to go before the ball is snapped. If you can't do that, call timeout. Stop, okay? But if you can't do that in the course of a game, it means that you weren't well prepared to do it. It means that you are not using formations to quite literally bend and stretch the defense to get what you want, okay? So, Dirk Cutter is excellent at designing passing attacks in terms of a pattern, right? Pass patterns, combinations. But he asks for deep patterns, and he asks for his linemen to hold on to blocks a little longer than they should, which gets two things, either a sack or a holding call or both. That happened a lot. And I've seen that happen with the Bucs. I mean, the Buccaneers were the only team last year I saw that used a 7-step drop. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you're bringing in that offensive approach here? And I had some comfort because during preseason, they were calling some beautiful short passes. So it's not that it isn't in their repertoire. They also have Bill Musgrave on the staff who knows this kind of offense, right? Played for Bill Walsh. But as far as I'm concerned, what Musgrave knows should take precedence over what Dirk Carter knows in terms of offense, because it's a more efficient approach. Again, it's nothing personal, but you asked me what the problems were. The good news for the Falcons is this: the problems that I described to you are fixable. They're fixable, okay? So, Cowboy Wrestler asks, so there you go. Angry Bear says, do you feel Josh Jacobs is a running back we've been missing? You haven't watched my videos. Zinny62, type Josh Jacobs, and then get back to me. Okay? Seriously. Michael Edley says, Legion of Boone made Quinn with their talent. Yeah, that's right. That was a beautiful defense. That shell, woo! Do I like the Arizona offense? Yes, absolutely. Esteban asks, do you think the Chargers can get a deal with Melvin Gordon? No, because Melvin Gordon, for me, well, let me put it this way. I think they can offer a deal with Melvin Gordon. The concern I have is whether or not he'll take it. And if I'm running the Chargers front office, I would rather, I'm serious about this, given the running backs around the league, given what can be gotten through trade or free agency, I'm willing to let him stew for a bit. Okay? All right? And the reason, and I hate to say this, there's nothing personal, it's only business. You should know, Godfather, okay? But when you start thinking about Melvin Gordon and his numbers, okay, you look at a guy he's still 26 in his prime, but the problem is that in his career, he doesn't have, and I'm looking at his career stats right now, but he is not. I can't turn around and unlike Ezekiel Elliott and say, my God, this guy had 1,400 yards. My God, this guy is posting 1,600 yards, right? I'm not seeing that. And so my thought is, you've got 3,628 yards. You have a 4-yard average. 4-yard average, okay? And per carry. Ezekiel Elliott has 4.7 yards. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, all right, is he worth Ezekiel Elliott money? I'm not seeing that. Okay, I'm not seeing that he is. Okay, and I think he needs to really just come down from his ask. Is he a good running back? Oh, no question about it. He is. All right, but he's been in the NFL since the 2015 draft. And I'm looking at his stats here. And as I peruse through here, okay? And we've got in terms of his career statistics, in terms of rushing yards, we have 641 his first year, 997 his second year, 1,105 his third year, and then 885 yards, okay? We've got an average game per rush of 3.5, 3.9, 3.9, and then 5.1. But I'm not seeing, then we have his receiving yards last year he had 490 on top of 885 yards rushing. And I'm not looking at this and saying these are Ezekiel Elliott level stats. I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing this where I can say, okay, you played, okay, for example, last year you played 12 games, right? He played 16 games in 2017. He played 13 games in 2016, 14 games. And so I don't even, only 1 year has he played, giving me a whole season. 1 out of 4. Regardless of the reasons, I'm just telling you what's on paper here. So when you hold out, the idea is, hey, look, you're holding out. You're holding out for big money. Like Elliott level money. But if you want that, you have to post something that's comparable that gives, you have to give me something to work with where I can say, okay, dude, do it. Let's roll up the Brinks truck, right? It's not there. If he had a 2,000-yard season on here, different story. That skews everything, right? But it's not there. He barely cracked the 1,000-yard mark. That's, I'm just talking about what's there, folks. Not being insulting. I'm not trying to. You know, Melvin Gordon seems like a very fine person. Okay, so Daniel says, why is everyone hopping on the Raven train? Because they're good. Daniel Cowboy says, I'm sorry, but the Chargers would be fools to pay him that kind of money. Michael Airline says, Austin Eckler is bailing. Chargers may not need Gordon. No. I mean, after I saw what I saw, no, they don't. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Daniel Gutierrez asked me the same question twice. So I removed one of them. Maybe you forgot you asked the same question ahead of time before. And so what do I think about the Lions tonight? I think they were lucky to get out of the stadium alive. Arizona should have won. I think that the Lions need to really look. I'm not a big fan of Matt Patricia's approach, okay? And I was surprised that he was the head coaching hire, in all honesty. I feel that, and here's where Kevin Sumlin will be fantastic for the type of offensive talent that the Lions have. The Lions need to be in an air raid system, not the one that Cliff Kingsbury operates, but one that has more of a timed passing ethic, okay? Or if you like, something that's more classically Air Coryell. But the Lions, oh, by the way, having said that, we have to say this. TJ Hawkinson, boss tight end. I think he set a record for receptions in Lions tight end, or maybe a rookie first day record in the NFL, I believe, beyond the Lions. Okay? So it underscores my point. The Lions have fantastic offensive talents, fantastic offensive players. But the system that they're being asked to run is not taking full advantage of what they can do. They were lucky to get out of the building alive against Arizona, because that game was a case of Arizona discovering how to use its college system in the NFL. And now, you know what? Watch out, baby. I picked Arizona, and I picked Kyler Murray to be Rookie of the Year. I was a little concerned preseason, but I reminded myself it's preseason. Let's not judge. And I can't wait to look at my NFL Game Pass film and the All 22, right? But the Lions have to open up their offense more than they have. They have a Boston TJ. They need to go no huddle all the time, or as much as they possibly can. They need to put more of a hot rod system in there and stop that balance. Oh, give me the Lions. Okay, you asked me, there you go. The L Train says, I'm a Patriots fan from Boston. We are excited about putting Antonio Brown with Edelman, Gordon, Dorsett, and potentially Demaryius Thomas. I would be very excited to see Antonio Brown running that wheel route, you know? Ooh. I can see Josh McDaniels quite literally hiding Antonio Brown in a position that looks like it's a tight end position, but really it's what we call a flexed split end, and then having a fullback and the tight end outside, and then running a kind of rub pattern on concept on either the left side or the right side of the formation. You have Antonio run that, he'll break so wide open, so fast, it'll make your head spin. I can see plays like that. Whew. In that case, all Tom has to do is basically throw it up on time and let him run under it. Goodbye. Okay. Who's going to catch him? This dude's fast. So, so there you go. The L Train says, as a Pats fan, we seem strong on all sides of the ball. Even surprised Michael Bennett didn't get a single offsides tonight. Only worry for me is our O-line. We got to protect TB12. But you know, the Patriots, are great at doing that by scheme. Bill Belichick will throw short in a second. And he will not ask his linemen to make blocks that are impossible against defensive linemen that are very good at shedding those blocks quickly. Oh no. They will scheme their way around that problem. And that's what I like about the Patriots. I think you're in good shape. Esteban says, who do you think is a better quarterback, Mariota or Winston? Even. And the reason I say that is because I never considered them. I always felt Jameis was a better passer than Marcus Mariota. Marcus came from Chip Kelly's system. He had to learn the passing game. But look, they came out at the same time. Jameis got wrapped up in a situation that could have been solved if he had just simply called Erica Kinsman and said, hey, we were both drunk. I'm just calling to see if you're okay. Because absent that, others filled her head in with thoughts about what happened when Ronald, the Florida State defensive back that was his teammate, and the other one, I have the case paperwork, said, hey, you know, she was the aggressor. And folks, when there's alcohol involved, people can change like that. Plus, she had 2 boyfriends, and she had had sex with 2 brothers within the space of 24 hours. Okay? All right? And so Patricia Cornwell, who is her attorney, says, oh, you know, she doesn't date black boys. She had 2 black boyfriends. So you had this racist tinge, you had this racist smell that contaminated the whole thing. And yet it has caused reporters to say, gee, we should have had Mariota, we wouldn't have had yada, 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 as opposed to really looking at the case and the situation. And, you know, look, Jameis didn't help himself by doing some things that are stupid, like, you know, jumping on a table and yelling and singing blanker, da, 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 or that sort of thing, right? Or, you know, telling kids that, you know, they can talk but the women can't. I mean, it's kind of like, dude, just don't say anything, all right? Jameis Winston is a really smart football guy, a really smart guy. But where Jameis was allowed to go wrong was that someone told him he needed to stay, and this is him. I understand that in a sense. He chose to go to Florida State because he wanted to be closer to his folks, and he didn't want to be in a situation where he was away from what he thought where people who are black should be like. And what I'm explaining to you is this, okay? There are those of us who grow up and unfortunately are told, hey, you have to be this way to be black. And what happens is when you think that and you buy into that, you wind up in a social box. And some people, you never get out of it. And the box says, hey, if I'm the only black person in this white environment, I shouldn't be here, as opposed to, oh, you know what? This is a conference on microbiology, and I need to meet Professor X and talk to Professor Y. You see what I'm getting at? Forget the color. Just do what you got to do in the environment and thrive in it. Not survive in it, thrive in it. Jameis didn't get that message. You're saying, why am I saying this? I'll tell you why. Because Jameis Winston turned down an opportunity to be coached by David Shaw at Stanford. That's why. David Shaw is the best college coach in the business. I know he doesn't have the best talent, but David Shaw is the best, man. Should have beat USC, but it didn't go the right way. Costello got injured. All right. David Shaw is awesome. And black. And Jameis could have learned a ton from Coach Shaw. Coach Shaw is a great man. I really admire Coach Shaw. And you can see the interviews I've had with him here on Zindy62 on YouTube. But think about what I'm telling you. Jameis Winston turned down Stanford. Now, who does that other than someone who's afraid to leave the South and go to the Bay Area and be around some amazingly smart people and then come out, hey, great signing bonus, some people in the tech industry, right? Get hired by Apple later and go in a direction that you never dreamed of or dreamt of. But he put himself in a box. That's why I'm talking about Jameis Winston like this. There you go. So, a take you never got anywhere else. Have you? Okay. Let's see here. Where am I going? Because I'm missing some comments here. I'll scroll up a little bit. Rick Gray says, Tampa Bay game plan was bad. Yes. 19 total penalties in the game. Game was bad. Neither quarterback was good. Winston was terrible. Yep. 3 interceptions, but it was almost 6 or 7 into the Niners. If the Niners demon could catch. Thoughts? I agree. Hey, thought? Rick Gray, I think you're late to the party. I said that I felt that Byron Leftwich should be the quarterback coach and not the offensive coordinator. And I felt that he and Arians, this is on he and Arians for having a bad play design. And they've had bad designs with respect to timing for the entire since preseason. I mean, I don't care if it's preseason. You can tell how good an offense is going to be by the design of the plays. Straight up. Straight up. I had concerns about Kingsbury and Arizona, except that Cliff is willing to get into a game and fix things. And his offense allows him to do that, right? Esteban says, should Alex Smith still be employed by the Redskins? Yes. Cowboy Rush says, good God, Miami is having nightmares about facing New England next week. I would think so. Mike Airline says, Pats maybe put up 70 on the Dolphins. No. I think that, you know what? I'm going to go out. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. The Patriots will win 24-14. Because I think the Dolphins would have gotten their act together. Of course, if they don't, yeah. But Does that leave room for upset? Possibly. I doubt it. Cowboy Wrestler says, I don't think it's going to be the case this time. God help the Dolphins. The L Trading says, Cowboy Wrestler, I heard something about their players requesting trades after one game. Yep. One Pride says, who wins the NFC East? Cowboys. Easy. Cowboys. Rick Gray says, sorry I'm late to the show. My bad to bring that thought late. You didn't know, Rick. That's all right. Everybody can ask. Folks, it's 2 o'clock. I've been on here for 100 minutes. Wow, that's long. Thank you. Tomorrow night we have the Raiders. I think what I'll do is a live stream after the first half. Then I can watch the game in peace. Or maybe I'll start early. I'll figure it out. Because that'll be 8:30, right? Nah, after the halftime. All right. Thanks. Oh, hey, thank you for the compliment. Eddie says, awesome show. Thanks. Thank you. That made my night. Good night, everybody, and thanks. Hey, thumbs up if you have a chance. I'm going to put some more items to buy down here, like coffee cups, hats, that sort of thing. So not everything's going to be a $21 t-shirt. And I also owe Patrick and Blackman his shares, as well as 2 others. So I haven't forgot about these things. Rick Gray is predicting 45-6 Dolphins and a revolt in Miami. I think you already had one. Raiders should win. You had a great show too. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Rick gets the last comment. There you go. Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate it.